to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to our Board of Education and Superintendent. Dr. Chaboy and his comrades are here to tell us all we want to know about the budget and some things maybe we don't want to know. Dr. Chaboy?
First off, Ms. Lizzie and the board, I just want to thank you again. This is, I think it's my 8th budget presentation to this body, and it'll be my last. But it is an honor to come here and talk to the community, to address questions from the town board, and just to present a little bit about our budget. So I have with me Ann Lawless. Ann Lawless is the president of the Board of Education. I'm sure that the board knows that. And Joseph Lenz is our assistant superintendent for business. And Joe is a primary architect of a lot of this. So if there's questions I can't answer, I know who to turn to. And that's always good to have a resource by your left hand or your right hand. So I'll cut to the good news first off. This budget presents a 0% increase to the tax levy. We're going out with a $35.953 million budget. It represents a budget-to-budget increase of 3.99% and maintains all of our programs. It maintains our sheriffs. It maintains the $130,000 that we added last year to the budget for equipment replacement. As you remember from my last time here, we talked about that. For years, we had relied on member items from State Senator Skoufis, who was very good to the district, but that runs out, and eventually you don't get it, or you don't get it in the year that you need it. So last year, we budgeted for that. That'll result in the replacement of some trucks. This year, we're going to keep that in the budget as a budget item that'll allow us to replace equipment as it fails, as opposed to putting $10,000 into a truck that should have been retired a couple years ago, which is what we did this year. So it's important for us to do that. We also have in this budget a couple items. I'll say that they're tangentially related to COVID. One of them at least is. We've all of us in schools at least, have seen an increase in some social and emotional needs of our children. So this budget adds a social worker to our roles. We increased our social workers last year from 1 to 2. And this year we're adding one more to do a lot of programming for our kids on the pre-K through 12 level. Looking forward to seeing that resource as, again, our kids are struggling. Our faculty struggling, our communities are struggling, and we're not alone in that, but we want to address that. In addition, we are adding a special educator to meet the special education needs of our children who are in the district. That person, in all likelihood, will be assigned to the intermediate school because that's where the need is. We are adding to the budget this year a $100,000 capital outlay line. Normally, when we come and talk about capital projects, we're talking about big projects. The state allows us to do a capital outlay project up to $100,000 if you budget for it, that the aid would run on it next year. It has to be done in a single year, no more than $100,000, and it has to be aidable, which means some of the work must be done within a building. This year, we're planning on doing, presuming the budget passes, planning on doing that $100,000 work of paving and driveway maintenance at the intermediate school and some work inside on a couple of the doors. You have to hit a $10,000 threshold on that inside. The good thing about this is next year, presuming that stays in the budget, it'll be offset by an $83,000 increase in aid because you get 83 cents on the dollar on our aid rate. So next year, to do that same type of project only costs us $17,000 in new monies. That's why we wanted to start getting these things done. Put them in the regular system, just like maintaining our equipment. Begging Senator Skoufis or Assemblyman Schmidt for money is not a sound way to keep your equipment up. Doing small projects is a much better way to manage our facilities than coming to you every year. Okay, oh, I need $10,000 here. I need $10 million here. I need $10 million. This will allow us to do those smaller projects without a capital project. We actually lobbied for that number to be a little bit higher because $100,000 is not a lot of work in municipal, but we'll leave that for a different discussion on a different day. The key drivers, because people always want to know, what drove that increase in the budget, Frank? The drivers are primarily the things that you would expect in any organization. So we have about $500,000 increase in salary, but remember, that adds 2 positions. We have a restructuring or moving lines to computer-aided instruction. So we're going to be buying more computers and things with our BOCES money. Special ed costs continue to rise. We don't control tuition. And when children are assigned to go to out-of-district placement, we don't control those things. Our benefits, including health care, we're all dealing with increase in health care costs. Ours is about 9% increase, Joe? 7. So, see, that's why I have the money man next to me. 7% increase. And that's a hefty number for us. Transportation and fuel costs. I can't drive by a gas pump myself without marveling, not in a good way, at what's happened with the price of fuel. And that's going to affect everything that we do in schools, whether it's our transportation, whether it's heating oil, natural gas, electric. That's going to affect us in schools too. And we would be unwise to not budget for it. So that is what we have. Joe, what am I leaving out here? 0 increase in the tax levy, 0 appropriated fund balance. We're going to pay for that about $130,000 or $150,000 worth of increase in TRS through our TRS reserve, and we'll refund that. And what was the other reserve we're using? The EBLAR, right. So when people retire, they're entitled to employee benefits. It's EBLAR, employee benefit accrued upon retirement. That's what that reserve is for. Money should not just be sitting there. It should go out, and when you have good days, it should go in. So I'll take questions from the town board.
Dr. Sheeple, you're releasing 0 fund balance money in
Correct.
order to accomplish 0%?
Correct.
That's very good, because
Absolutely.
I dislike social media. Everyone knows that. I'm not good at it. I dislike it. But I'm seeing a lot of, so I read it, but I don't comment on it. I see a lot of things out on social media that and I've heard some as well at some of these meetings, that the community is saying, oh, well, you guys gave us 0 last year and gave us 0 this year, and you're going to sock it to us next year. No, we're not. We're being fiscally responsible. I can't promise you that it's going to be 0 next year. It's very unlikely going to be 0 next year, but we're being fiscally responsible. So we did just that, Richie.
very good.
We didn't touch our reserves. I'm sorry, we didn't touch our fund balance because we're expecting to have to touch our fund balance next year. We used state aid because we got state aid just like every other district
Yeah.
did. We used it wisely this year. We used our reserves this year because that's what we're supposed to do, because we know we can probably replace them. We are expecting our share of state aid next year because the state is telling us we're going to get it. If elections go sideways and we don't get it, we have our fund balance. So we're being fiscally responsible, not touching the fund balance. Now, you, from your experience, know that we normally do, but we took advice from Joe and Frank and said we're not going to touch it. And we're going to leave it because we know we're probably going to need it next year to go out with a fiscally responsible budget and be fair to our taxpayers and go out with a reasonable tax increase,
Very good.
tax rate. So yes, you heard that right.
Do you have a projection maybe next year, or what kind of control do you keep on that tax increase? Or do you have a projection where you think it might go? I mean, you figured out 0 and 0 the last 2 years, but we don't want that rumor to come true with a
Right.
5% tax.
So remember, we are capped at 2%, just like
Okay,
the
right.
town and the village boards are also capped. In order for us to override the tax levy, we need a 60% majority vote of all of our voters. So there is our auto check there. We were authorized by the formula, it's a wonderful formula, to go to 2.8 this year. I mean, so we had about $300,000 worth of money we could have asked the taxpayers. But we got about $1.4 million increase, $1.6 million increase in state aid. We're counting on that, actually. And when I say that, there are districts that have been made whole already. We're not one of them. So our increase to make us whole on a formula that is over a decade old and has never been fully funded, we're one of probably about 25% of school districts in the state that have not been made whole. The state owes us. It would be politically unlikely for them to not give that. If there's a total shift in both parties, again, we can't wrangle with that. But the fact that we do maintain a fund balance, the fact that we do have the ability to use our reserves, that will soften any blow. Will it be a zero? No. But the fact that we went out with a zero this year and next year means that that number is already a little bit lower than it would have been. Because remember, we were at $10.3 million in 2019-2020. We're at $10.3 million on the tax in 22-23. So we're already starting lower than we would have been if we had even modest increases the last 2 years. So hopefully that helps us do it.
Thank you.
No, appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, Jim.
Frank, hey, how you doing?
I'm pretty amazing.
I think the fact that, and I've heard this a couple of times now, and appreciate you all being here today, the fact that you're adding a social worker and a special educator, is that the state aid that's allowing you to do this?
So it is partly that, absolutely. I mean, the state aid, there are no strings on how we can spend that. Without that money, we would not be doing it, right? That's a fact. If we got $200,000, or we'd have to raise taxes, these are needs.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to say that the increase in aid is helping us do so many things that it otherwise would not be able to do. But we would probably be finding a way to do those anyway.
Yeah.
They're that important
Because
for our
you've
kids.
talked about that for
Yeah.
a while that I know of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Sheepoy and Ann and Mr. Lenz, what's your first name?
Joe?
Like to give you all nice plugs. So I shouldn't use the word I. It was a pleasure to be on the school board. My favorite night of the year was giving a kid their diploma. I was appointed originally and went through 3 elections, so I'm familiar with all that. And I did the impact aid for most of that time, which I think is still about 12% of our revenue. It used to be at that point.
Yeah, it's 3.4 million, so as a relative percentage, it's under 10 now. Remember,
Yep.
that's why we keep having to go and ask for more. But it's relatively speaking, it's the same dollar value as when you were on the board.
Yep.
But as our budget went from 33 to 35.9, it's still that 3.4. So it is probably closer to 8 or 9%.
Well, I just wanted to say, like with the impact aid, which I spent a lot of time on airplanes being de-iced with Dr. Sheboy, flying around the country for these conferences. And it's a group of about 240 districts around the country, all competing for what used to be $68 million. And if you didn't go to these meetings, somebody was going to get your money. So Dr. Sheepoy and Ann, you've been doing it for the last few years, right? You know, it pays to have experienced people, because when I was on the board, when we went from John Hall to Nan Hayworth, it was Sue Kelly, John Hall, Nan Hayworth, and then Sean Patrick Maloney. None of them knows about the history of impact aid. And we live here in 16,000 acres of our land not being usable to us. You have to explain it to them, and they have to go to the Congress because it's not forward funded unless that's all that's changed.
Yep, no, you're
So
right.
that experience is invaluable, and I want to thank you all for all the years you've done that.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate that.
Just a couple of things, not associated with the budget. One, I'm still, well, first off, congratulations to all of you as far as O'Neill High School and the West Point students and the contract and things like that.
There's a lot of work.
I am still sort of getting questions off and on.
Yeah.
Could you just cut to the chase real quickly for folks that may be listening?
Yep.
About what has been set up, how long is it going to be, those kinds of things?
Absolutely, and thanks for that, Jim. So again, the district was a successful bidder in a competitive bid for educating the military-connected children from West Point. That is a 10-year deal. It's a 1-year award, but 9 years out, so it's 10 years. That's how they do that. And unless they don't have the need, they'll still be here. Unless we do something really, really bad, which we're not going to do because we're that good. Incidentally, O'Neill was once again named one of the best schools in the country. If you didn't see that, it's on our website. But so it's a 10-year contract there. in regards to that, it's soup to nuts for every bit of the education of the children and military-connected children, a high school age from West Point. I'm not sure I got the whole question, Jim, so I apologize if I missed something.
No, other than it is a 10-year?
10-year.
It's not going to be a year or
No,
5
sir.
years or something like that?
No, sir, and just for historical perspective, I mean, you go back to when Richie was on the board, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Sullivan.
Richie's fine.
I figured it was, it's Frank and Richie. That was every 2 years. We were bidding on that every other year anyway.
Right.
It wasn't until 2016 that became a 5-year deal.
Right.
And now having a 10-year deal gives stability for the district leadership to plan. We will know within a range of the number of students and the number of special education students, we will know with some degree of certainty for 10 years. Approximate value of the contract, $70 million. Largest federal contract, I would guess, any superintendent and team negotiated ever.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of lift, so.
You all did a good job.
Again, I would say the
Congratulations
team
to all
did
of
a
you.
good job. I'm just one member of a team, so.
And then second question is, I know there's school board elections coming around.
Correct.
Could you just talk about
Absolutely.
that just a little bit? I think it's next week.
Absolutely. So the 17th, and I'm going to encourage people to vote. How you vote is up to you when you're behind that curtain. You click yes, you click no, you choose the people that you want. But I encourage everybody to vote. Remember, the purest form of democracy that we actually know in New York State is a school board. Because people vote for their electors directly and their budget directly. So I encourage everybody to go out and vote. It's the 17th. It'll be at the Highland Falls Intermediate School in the gymnasium from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. We have 4 candidates running for 2 seats. They are in the order that they are on the ballot. Stephen Walker, Gus Kitsaretis, Christine McCormick, and Ann Lawless. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 in the order that they are in the ballot. Again, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., Highland Falls Intermediate School. Rain or shine, we'll be there. We'll be in the gym. And if you want, there's a concert that night too. So go see our kids. They're wonderful. So
Okay.
I'm sorry, so there's 2 open seats?
there's 2 seats, 4 people running. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a cranky old man, and I'm going to support your budget, so.
You know I can't ask, so I'll just say, go and vote how you feel you should when you're behind that curtain. So
Thank you very much for a very informative presentation.
thanks, Bob.
Very.
And again, to the board, every year, been very receptive. I appreciate the depth of the questions. You don't just let me give my spiel and let me leave. You give me some questions, and I appreciate that. And again, 7 years in the district, I appreciate, Bob and I worked on a number of issues over the 7 years. We got little speed signs at Fort Montgomery Elementary School and little things and water hookups and water. It was always water and trees with me. So, but just thank you to the board. Thank you for the entire town of Highlands. It has been an amazing 7 years in the district. And if I keep talking, I'll cry. So we won't do that. So thank you.
Thank you for your time. Stay well.
Thank you.
Take care. Good luck, Dr.
Yeah.
Short.
Thanks for your service, Frank.
You may have gotten the minutes of the last meeting today, but if you're ready to approve it, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so carried. On finance, I transferred $272,516 from the consolidated account to the accounts payable to cover this week's check run. The big items are Global Montello for diesel, $9,628. KS State Bank for the police car lease, $24,584. Ryder Winter Frankel for legal fees, $8,260. Slack Chemical, that's chlorine for the sewer plant, $6,286. Village of Highlands Library, that's not right. Village of Highlands Library. Highland Falls Library, sounds better. $167,986. Rockland County Solid Waste Disposal, $27,932. Any questions on the, then we'll have board liaison reports, and we'll start with the shortest one, and that would be Councilman Sullivan.
Okay. I'll try and keep it comprehensible. So the usual stuff that I talk about, the planning board meets on the third Thursday of the month. I believe they'll be meeting here and continue to meet here. On May 19th at 7 PM is their next meeting. Eric normally sends out the agenda a little bit before. We won't have another meeting before then. It's always advertised downstairs or on the website, so, and I'll be sure to post on social media once I see it. Zoning Board of Appeals, they meet on the third Wednesday of the month, which would be May 18th. And I spent some time talking to Jack Janarone today, because in case nobody's noticed, COVID is kind of on the rise. There's a lot of exposure to it. I actually tested negative a day or two ago, and I'm wearing a mask as a precaution because I was around 3 people last week that told me subsequent that they were positive. So that's why I'm wearing it. With the COVID increases, the ZBA might be having that meeting by WebEx. Jack didn't know the answer to that. That'll be on the website. I say about all the time, Highlands Online. The agenda will be there. Any documents associated will be there. I believe they have an area variance coming before them, and there's a possibility of an interpretation for a challenge to where the R1R zoning down on Mine Dock Road is coming up. Sewer. I was down at the sewer plant today. The flow meter was either struck by lightning or damaged. So it's way off. So I'm not going to read the April DMR because it's bogus. And we have someone coming tomorrow to either calibrate it or replace it. We had a pump station at Corbin Hill, which gets a lot of grease. Some of that's coming from Dunkin' Donuts. Throw a high alarm. So about 2 o'clock in the morning, my phone rang to let me know we had to get a call out for that. And that was taken care of. They had to replace a couple of float switches down there. And this Thursday, Lincoln Tully, I think it's at 8:30, Bob, are going down there to identify opportunities to optimize the operation with the new equipment. And we've also, I know it's an uncomfortable discussion, we've also talked about the plausibility of making that plant a bigger capacity versus considering some of our outside users going to a different treatment facility. Time about that subject, so we're starting the ball rolling to get a professional answer to the route that we should go as time goes on. Water. Man, I won't talk about this one that much, but water. So tonight I'm going to recommend adopting what Kelly sent out in the way of water rates. I don't believe they've increased since 2014. The village are raising their rates, and they haven't raised their rates in that same amount of time, so we're going to have to adjust also. Last week I spent some time walking our water system at its source, and this is public, so most people know we had an audit by the state. They're a little bit upset that we have a negative fund balance, which goes back 10 years ago to an administrative error, which is being corrected over a 20-year period of time. Is that correct? The 20-year period of time for that. It had to do with general fund versus the actual water district, so that's all part of it. And in conjunction with that, some out of the 436 customers we have in the water district, not all of them are tied in. There's some that have wells, which there's some uncertainty because there were people like me that were issued a water meter for a house where I was going to install it, and I didn't install it, so the town thought that that house was a meter not reading. That's just one example out of 436. So I think we're going to have to go through each and every one to make sure we have this right as we move forward with a professional repair to any discrepancies. And I'm not going to talk about numbers because they're anecdotal at this point. I'll talk about that at a future time, but we are on top of it. Testing company was here sounding for leaks last week. And on this Wednesday, we're going to do a little check on the village master meter down at the trailer park at 9 o'clock in the morning. I will be there for that. For history, I spent a few hours in Ronnie Coffey's historian's office last week. And last Wednesday night at the American Legion Hall, Michael Graber and John Gunza spoke for about an hour. and they both like to speak. I take that as a compliment, guys. They both like to speak. And they talked about the history of Main Street buildings, the owners who went in and whatnot. They're going to do it again on June 1st. It was covered on Facebook Live, so it's there for people to see. It was very interesting. It was well attended. Even I learned something. Out of Camp Buckner and Camp Natural Bridge, I did not know that those barracks were built for prisoners of war during World War II. I did not know that. The original ones, they've been redone since then. And Ronnie also asked me to highlight this. The Town of Highlands Historical Society will present The Way We Were, an illustrated talk by town historian Ronnie Coffey on what life was like in 1872 when our town was born, featuring over 100 images, a fashion display, and an artifact guessing game. And that'll be Saturday, May 21st at noontime at the library, free and open to the public. And my final thing is the Citizens Environmental Advisory Committee will be meeting here at 6 o'clock on Friday night. That's the second Friday. And I don't have the agenda in front of me, so I'm not quite, I think we're going to have a guest speaker. And that's my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman King?
Oh, just a few things from me this evening. Should be just as short as my colleague here, hopefully. But first of all, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone at home. We'll start with just a reminder that we continue to work on negotiations with the town of Highlands and the PBA, the town of Highlands PBA. It's ongoing, but promising. No real huge sticking points, some formalities that we need to tighten up, but otherwise we're still chugging and plugging along, and we should be finished hopefully soon. In terms of the senior citizens, I want to remind everyone that the Highlanders Club is coming up on the 50th anniversary. What a milestone. And this 50th anniversary will be celebrated by having a cocktail party on May 15th at the Park Restaurant from 4 to 6 p.m. The cost of this event is $25, which includes 2 drinks and snacks. Secondly, they will continue to celebrate on May 17th with a luncheon. And this luncheon is at the Senior Center, and it will go from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. The cost is also $25. If you want to go to both, you can do so by purchasing a ticket for $45, give you a $5 discount there. So we want to first congratulate the Highlanders on such a milestone, and want to encourage folks to help them celebrate these events. The other thing is we got coming up the Arts Alliance Spring Art Fling. Highland Falls Arts Alliance Spring Art Fling. This Saturday, the 14th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the American Legion Auxiliary. This is a great way to discover local artists and local talent, because these products are done by our local folks in our local community. It's a $5 admission fee to get into this event, and there will be light refreshments served. I want to also talk a little briefly about, again, we got a month or so before the Juneteenth activities, but there's a whole weekend for us of activities being planned, starting with hopefully the return of the Veterans Resiliency All-White Affair, meaning everybody dressed in white, and we give out some awards to those veterans who've been resilient. And there's probably going to be a lot of them after the last 2 years' absence, right? So then Saturday, we come with a parade down Main Street with the motorcycles and hopefully a lot of others involved. Sunday, we do a gospel event. And then Monday, the center is planning a trip, a bus trip from Highland Falls to Philadelphia that is of its historical significance to a location in Philadelphia. So Monday is the observed holiday this year. You know, it's a national holiday now. So Monday, although the June 19th is on a Sunday, but the nation is celebrating on Monday. So that's essentially a 4-day weekend. So the town of Highlands will be ready and activated to do 4 days worth of stuff. And I just want to put that out there so I remember to say that the center is doing a trip. And then lastly, I wanted to say congratulations to the folks who were awarded the People Who Make a Difference Day award by the Hudson Valley Women's Association that we just attended. Chief Ryan Falk, firefighter Dennis McCutcheon, Reverend Dorrit Mann Richard, Mr. Malik Johnson, and young master Colin Monahan, freshman at O'Neill High School. They all were awarded this award, and we were there, most of us up here. But I thought it significant, particularly to talk about a young man like Colin, a freshman, who's always volunteering. It was a pleasure to see him getting recognized. The last thing I'll say, I'm surprised that my colleague, a little disappointed that he didn't mention the fact that I saw the swan today when I went by.
I just wrote down that I forgot to say that, so go ahead, take it away.
So I just want you to know you're not the only one looking for the swan. I was
Thank
out
you.
there at the pond and I saw the 2 swan. I thought I saw some baby swan too.
There's 7 of them.
See, I figured
Thank
you
you.
would confirm that.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Very good. Very good. What are we doing about the junk on top of the lake? I know you get rid of that, you get rid of the
Yeah.
swans, so.
So they, in their contract, they put down that they're not gonna come until there's signs of it. They used to come a little bit earlier. The lake has some stuff on it now. I wish I knew a professional biologist to tell me just what to do. We can't have the lake not treated for the whole season. That is unsatisfactory. So I actually called him today and left a message. He's gonna call me tomorrow. They'll be coming soon.
Okay.
When they treat for the coontail, which is part of the swan's food, and they treat it so it goes down a foot or 2, and it is assumed or presumed for the last 2 years that that's the reason that the swans left, because they were deficient on food. I don't know that to be true. So like, if anybody wants to take this away from me, I'd be happy not to make that decision, but we're gonna have to make a decision.
Okay, thank you. Councilman DeWitt.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good evening, everybody. I've unofficially yielded all my time tonight to you two guys. Pretty quiet. You know, Ty covered all the things going on with the seniors and the Highlanders group. Thank you. The big thing is, again, broken record, but I remind everybody about the electronics dump and recycling program that's going to be happening on Saturday, June 11th from 8 to noon. It's going to be occurring at Lot 2 across from Sacred Heart. And again, it's about, TVs, anything with a chipboard in it. Can't put that stuff to the curb anymore. Bring it Saturday. This is your big opportunity to get rid of it for free. Any information on it, you've heard about us talk about the recycling app that's out there. You can find all that information at the Town of Highlands website. I'll remind everybody, it's highlands-newyork.gov. The only other thing, I just want to say a personal thanks to Jeff and the ambulance corps in the village police department for taking good care of me. I had a little medical thing a couple Fridays ago, and I just want to say thank you to the hometown team to taking care of me and getting me safe, and I just want to again thank you very much. And Jasmine, I believe, was the EMT I met that night. So again, thank you to that, and again to the village, the guys in the village police department that came to my assistance. That's all I got.
Councilman Model?
Okay, thank you, and good evening, everyone. Mentioning Jeff, he's here in the audience with us, and so I'll yield some of my time. Do you have I have a big announcement. I'm going to talk about the ambulance corps last month, but if you would like to go ahead and...
I want to talk to the board.
About something else? Okay. All right, so As you know, each month we've been keeping track of how many calls the ambulance corps has been, I'll call it internally responding to. Last month, for the month of April, was 100% of the calls. Congratulations, that's excellent. I think since I've been on the board, that's the first time it's been 100%, I think. But at any rate, I mean, it's been tracking very high, but 41 out of 41 calls during the month of April. So congratulations again
Think about it, Jeff. Thank
to
you.
all of you. So, very good job on that. It was mentioned about the center, and I think Councilman King mentioned the center and the Hudson Valley Women's Association event that they had, People Who Make a Difference. I'd just like to also add, as they have in the past, that they have identified a business, a local business. This year's recipient for that was Bear Mountain Pizza, and very deserving of that award. Had an opportunity to attend the Community Coalition. Again, they have these each month. It's the first Wednesday of the month in the center. Had an opportunity to attend that this past week or so, and very good meeting. There are a lot of events and activities that they're planning to be part of. Always open for any interested community members to join and be involved with that. One of the things that we talked about, I think maybe we mentioned this a time or two ago, a couple of board meetings ago, but in fact, I was just hearing on the news yesterday or today about a big concern across the country about mental health, and concern especially with young people, school-age children in particular, and concerns about mental health issues. A lot of it is being tied to the pandemic over the last couple of years, but it even goes from before that. The Community Coalition is going to be getting a little bit more involved in looking at that from our community perspective. This month is National Mental Health Month, and each Thursday, I believe it's 10 o'clock in the morning, that for an hour or two each Thursday of this month, they're going to have a little session talking about mental health, information, brochures, those kinds of things. There's also the Mental Health Association of Orange County, that if anyone wants information or is in need of assistance or help, certainly reach out to the Mental Health Association of Orange County. So more to follow on that, but very good organization, very good community effort. And again, it is open to anyone who is interested. Contact the center, and they can give you information about when the next meeting is, or reach out to me if you want, and I'll be able to help you with that. This past weekend, several of us were at the Evelyn Drew Memorial Service Award event at the Barnstormer. June Gunza, Reverend Judy Ferguson, and Joyce Claiborne were the awardees for that. And so that was a very nice event. And then finally, I also was going to say something about the Swans. I drove by the area a couple of days ago, and I would have sworn they were over by your area, looking for you, Richie.
They hang out over there.
I was thinking that might be the case. So
They hang out there.
They're looking for you to take care of them. So
They normally come on Mother's Day. They came the Sunday before. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, and I had my camera right there, so it was very
in fact,
nice.
that's what it was. I was
There's
driving by.
one that didn't make it. There's one egg left on the nest, so out of 8 of them, 7 made it.
Okay.
Do you have a wetsuit in the swan hat that you?
I've had every swan encounter you can imagine over the last 40 years. And I apologize, there's something important. I didn't mention building. You all got the email, right? With the sign that's on the door down there. So with COVID, like I said, coming back, the building department will not have anybody in it for the next couple of days. Fear not. They're all operating remotely. If you call extension 316 or extension 7, it's going to go right to Cabby's phone. And we have the engineer coming over to get some information to work on. Life goes on. If you walk in the door and need to drop anything off, it'll go as far as the town clerk's office for a couple of days, and we'll see to it that it's processed subsequent to that. I expect somebody to be back Thursday or Friday in that office. Thank you.
That's all.
As I mentioned at the last meeting, these guys are a wealth of information. Just listen to the reports, take heed. The way Councilman King was giving information out, you really had to have a pencil and paper at home. But I think most of this stuff is on Channel 23. It's in the newspaper, News of the Highlands. So most of this stuff you'll find elsewhere. But these guys do a great job, and I appreciate it very much. Chief, you have anything for us?
Yes, sir, just a couple things. So I wanted to report that after last month's meeting, the deputy chief ordered the live scan, and we expect it to be here in about 4 weeks, depending on software. So hopefully we can get that up and running sooner than later. A lot of things are depending on delivery and obviously the electronics. Our recruitment drive, as I like to call it, was very successful. So we have 1 officer starting tomorrow in field training, 2 more that were interviewed tonight, and we have a 4th coming in within the next week or 2. So that gives us 4 new officers, so hopefully all 4 will be approved and take the position, and I think that will work out just fine. And unfortunately, Dr. Sheboy isn't here, but I wanted to report that we delayed our lockdown drill, so if any family members are concerned, and I know the school sent a notice out, based on the threats that were going up in the Newburgh School District, we had a lockdown drill planned, so we did it 2 days later. I was there with Sergeant Torpy was there, and Colonel Hefferly was there as well as monitors, and I'd like to report that the school did a great job, so
Thank
that's
you.
it.
Board have any questions?
No. Did you hear about that?
Jeff, do you have something for us?
I did not know. No, I did not know that.
I just wanted to know, if you don't mind. 911, excuse me, cell towers. I was going to do it on the general, the public information, your agenda part. Where's the board at that? Because I think we're at the spot now, I can't speak for the chief and the assistant chief, but we get calls dropped on 293 in the village, in the town, Canterbury. I know we have a radio, but we're talking about life and death matters when it comes to using phones in this general area. So it's just a question is, do we know if we're going to get cell towers around here?
We're going to have a cell tower on town garage property. It's in the works. I can't tell you if we'll have it next week or next year, but it absolutely is in the work.
Yeah.
Justin, do you know anything more about it?
Well, that's a pretty good assessment. I can't tell you if it's going to be next week or next year, but it's in the works. Right now it's at the village. They did a balloon test, and we're waiting to hear a response from the village on a balancing of interests inquiry as to whether or not we will or will not have to go through a zoning process. But it's certainly active, certainly something this board is working on.
It's important because we're people, you may be out on 293 and you had a car accident, they got to come all the way to 9W and the 293 interchange. And it's a matter of life and death. You're up on Canterbury and Mine Road, there's no service. And you hit parts of the village, there's no service. And it depends on your carrier also, but a lot of people tell you the service is terrible here. The second part of mine was, and for the board, is we have places like Dunkin' Donuts that was just opened within the last year in the town. We had a couple of car accidents there, and I was wondering if the board, in its nature, and the new buildings that are coming forward, because I already talked to the village on a side note with Joe and Jimmy, that we have 3 new buildings that are coming up. Are they considering putting in the package, along with the tax relief, possibly, of talking about EMS and police service that are going to be going to these new buildings and places, so we can get monies for police cars, our new ambulance, or things that can subsidize what we do in service to these new buildings that are coming. A lot of places do that before they even get the build. You say, well, we need EMS services, and I know the chief, he can speak for himself about his calls and what we get. But these new buildings, we're going to be going to them. And we've noticed that with Dunkin' Donuts and all the places that open up. I know this bank here, the guy that is building the other two places with the restaurant, that's going to be a big building, and so is this. So we know there are going to be calls there. So I'm just asking the board, other towns, other villages do that. They make, inclusives get police cars or whatever, so the burden doesn't come on the taxpayers. It's already fitted in there. So that's my question to the board.
Dr. Ritchie doesn't
Thank
have
you.
enough to do, but could you see if the planning board, or what would it be, planning board? Or-
Well, sure. So it used to be very common practice, and New York State has frowned upon that practice. So it's a balance between what is responsible development, what your taxpayers should do, and what might be appropriate for a developer to do. So it's not as easy as it used to be. The planning board is certainly considerate of the matters and where appropriate, where there are stresses on systems. Sometimes there can be something, and sometimes there can be a commitment from a corporation moving into a community because they want the goodwill. But it's not as straightforward as simply saying, right, to be able to come here, you must. So they're considerate of that, but certainly it's worth a conversation at points, and I'll certainly speak to the chairman.
Okay. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Jeff, did I hear you say budgeting for more emergency services vehicles also, right? I don't know how much of that money is gonna be left over when the water tank is built or whatnot, or what it might be projected for. I don't know, just food for thought with whatever's, we won't know what's left over out of that until sometime early next year after it's built and all that. But with the planning board, like, I haven't been on the planning board since 2008, and it's funny how history goes. In front of Corbin Hill, there was a traffic study done about putting a stoplight there, probably in 2006, under certain conditions, and owners come and go, supervisors come and go, boards come and go. People forget all these things, and I can tell you that Eric Smith keeps on top of that stuff. He works hard. Just last week, he sent out a common email to Bob and I won't elaborate and I'll let him, kind of like having 9W going through Fort Montgomery be like it is in Cornwall. You know what I'm saying? How they have the lanes on the outside and the inside for turning purposes. So I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it's being looked at because we know that there's going to be issues down there as time goes on. The left-hand turn lane or whatever it is down there at Dunkin' Donuts, that goes to the planning board, it goes to the county, it goes to the DOT. There's a lot of people looking at it. That doesn't mean they always get it right. We'll get it right as time goes on.
That's one question. Jeff, do you, with the hotels going up, like here in town, do you have a projection on, like, how many calls do you get based on the occupancy of the hotel? When Holiday Inn went up, I mean, do you get a lot of calls to the hotel for? Yeah, all right. So that's part of what you're saying with that growth.
I think they're building new condos behind Brooks Lane, someplace there. So, you get occupancy, you're going to get calls.
That simple. Okay, thank you.
Sir, if I could just,
Yes, sir.
I looked into the phones, we changed our patrol phones to T-Mobile on the government plan. It's not bad, but I have Verizon, I get a lot of drop phone calls, and we're having some connection issues with our police vehicles. So I talked to New Windsor IT, and I spoke to Island Tech in Long Island, who does all the work for the county. And one of the things he suggested is that as the 4G network is being broken down, the 5G network can't handle the amount of phones.
Right.
Now, he could just sell me a bill of goods, but I believe him. So he says you're gonna see that more no matter who your carrier is, because we're having connectivity issues with our patrol vehicles. But historically, I always go by what Mr. Livesey said, 3 mountains and a river. So you got a tough area here to
Yeah,
get
we
phone
do.
service.
I talked to Carrilli today, and he said the same thing, but 4G will never go away. He said that will be the basis for 5G.
Correct.
5G is the next level, but 4G is the
But the
fallback.
5G, he says, can't handle everything's coming along right now.
Right, exactly.
So we're looking at the issues as well. You could, sometimes at 293, we have very good radio reception with the county
Right,
program.
exactly.
But the phone service is just in a miss.
Right.
And everywhere in the county gets that. You get more drop calls now than you ever did before
Right,
that.
right. And
Wow.
my purpose was really for chief, it was for the patients or people that have seen accidents are in dire need of emergency service, they can't call, so somebody else goes to an area where they
No,
can.
I agree with you.
Yes.
We called on that, we spoke to the people who contract with the county for the AVLs.
Right.
And we're, actually spoke to New Windsor IT, we might have to reconfigure, when our new patrol cars come in, we have to reconfigure them completely, so we guarantee we get some kind of service.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you. I asked our Recreation Director, Aaron Falk, to come to our meeting tonight and tell us what's going on with the Long Pond contract or the program or whatever you want to call it, Aaron.
Ready for me now?
Yes.
I'm going to apologize in advance for my appearance. I literally just came off 2 fields, so I'm a dirty mess. I apologize. I will, I'll give you a quick overview and let you know where we're at. And if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to field them. For anyone who doesn't remember, West Point took back Long Pond at the end of our 2018 season. I think going into 2019 maybe is when we found out they were taking it back. What they did with it, whatever the success or failure they had with it, I couldn't speak on it, but I met with Mr. Modlin in the Garrison's office, I want to say maybe October, November of last year.
That's a while ago, yeah.
And we went there with the intention of explaining why we wanted Long Pond back in our possession. And I think the meeting lasted maybe 30, 40 minutes, and by the end of the meeting, they were ready to give it back to us. So that's where it started. We spent the next 4 or 5 months or so figuring out how that would look on paper with the government contracts and everything. It's very, very tricky to work around things. We started with the IGSMA, and I apologize if I said it wrong, Intergovernment Service Agreement. They expected that to get denied when they put it up, so they had a fallback contract option they wanted us to go by. When it did, which the IGSBA got denied. They're going to redo it a different way for next year, but it got denied for this year. They went to a contract, an MOU, and they got told they would need at least 6 months for the MOU to be able to get put in place. So where it was left at is they decided that they could hire us as a vendor. And what that looks like is that they're actually going to pay us, I think it was like $7,200 to supply lifeguard services for Long Pond. Speaking with Supervisor Livesey, I sent the email out that I got back from West Point, and they are on the same page of they want us to have it. They want to give it back. They don't want to keep it anymore. Just with paperwork issues, that's kind of where we're at. So for this year, at least on paper, MWR West Point is going to look like they run Long Pond, and by what I mean run Long Pond, they're going to have one MWR employee at the gate, serving as the gate guard, collecting fees that come in. Everything else out there, as far as staff lifeguards, our general maintenance person we had out there for years, that'll be the same. They've made it clear we're in charge. The chain of command is going to be like it always is, lifeguards down to myself and whoever's recreation is out there. They are also, speaking with Supervisor Livesey, we knew that there were certain things within our budget we couldn't sustain this year. The grass cutting, the porta potty contracts, the regular maintenance of the facility, the
Trash.
the dumpster, that's what I was looking for. So they're gonna take on all that, and got a handshake agreement, which is a handshake, doesn't mean much, that they're gonna keep that going for the years to come. So when we do get Long Pond back, they're gonna stay doing the trash, they're gonna keep doing the grass cutting and all that stuff. But after this year, they're gonna remove their MWR employee from Long Pond, and everybody out there will be Town of Highlands employees. I feel like I'm leaving some stuff out. It was so much. So that's kind of where we're at. I think Kelly filled out the SAMs, did I say that right? To make us, well, we were already a vendor for the federal government from a couple years ago. So that's kind of where we're at. Long Pond, in so many words, is back under the town umbrella. This year, we're only going to be worrying about lifeguarding. Next year, we'll take over everything else. And we're going to get paid to do it this year. So
Soon we're going to have to announce to the public what the rates are.
So, yes.
Going in there, and what the rates are for the pavilion out there.
Yeah, so I'm glad you said that, because that made me, I keep thinking about stuff I forget. So as far as rates, I'm going to meet with them this week. They're gonna keep everything we've done out there as far as daily passes, season passes, Everything that we've done is, if you went out there before when they had it, it was kind of split up in between like the barbecue area, the pavilion, the beach area. It was all different price structures for different things you did out there. They had small time windows that you can go out there for the admission you paid. That's all going to be gone. It's going to be, just like it was when we had it. You pay to get in, you stay for as long as you want, and you leave. The hours are going to be the same, swimming hours, the barbecue hours. They've let me know that they're gonna keep whatever they make for daily passes and season passes at the gate. Anything outside of that pavilion usage, we're coordinating. Anything we make from pavilion usage, we keep. Any camps, if you remember, a couple years ago, we started taking summer camps out there besides ours. A lot of West Point sports camps, and they paid good money to go out there, and that's all money that we're going to keep in our revenue. And again, what they're doing out there with their employees is really for perception. It just has to look like Long Pond is being run by them for their contract or for their vendor contract to work. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward as far as how it's going to run. It's going to run how it's always ran. I said that right. So that's kind of where we're at. I think we're just waiting on the paperwork from they call it we're a vendor, so we're supplying lifeguard service to them. We're waiting on that paperwork and just finalizing all the operational details. And then we're pretty much it. We're gearing to open up Memorial Day like we always have for weekends, same hours. And then once June 25th hits, that Saturday, we'll be open daily till Labor Day.
All right. Questions?
No.
Questions?
Do we have Long Pond got a little section on our website, or does that need to be?
I don't think we do, but we'll update the information accordingly so everyone has the updated stuff.
It hasn't been ours the last few years.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Last year, I can remember driving by a couple of Sunday afternoons, evenings, by 6 o'clock. Place was locked up tight. So rite of passage in this town growing up is making it to the raft, first of all. If you put a raft back, even if it's only 10 feet out, that's when you graduate into being an adult or whatever. And the other thing is, at nighttime, on a Saturday or Sunday night, a lot of people sure did like picnicking out there until dusk. I hope that we're able to return that type of service to people.
Absolutely. So that's our plan, is to open up till dusk anyway. At least for the picnicking. The swimming area will close like it always has, an hour or two earlier. Excuse me. But so right now there is no raft out there. We don't know if it'll be out there again this year. We have it. It's over in the corner by the pavilion. We have it. But what not having the raft does for us is it makes it a shallow water lake, which kind of changes up the certifications we need a little bit. All our lifeguards will be waterfront certified like they've always have. West Point gave us the option of having a lesser certification, but we're not comfortable with having anything less than what we've always had out there safety-wise. So we're going to go back to our waterfront certification. So lifeguards are very scarce right now, just like Little League umpires, youth sports umpires, and referees are scarce. We were able to connect with a gentleman that lives in Tennessee that comes up to Orange, Ulster, Rockland, and Westchester for May and June, and what he does, he makes his rounds and does certification classes. So he's actually going to come up here May 21st and hold our own certification class right at Long Pond. And we have about, I want to say, a dozen lifeguards, new lifeguards that we've recruited in that are going to take the course. It's an expensive course, so I don't know if you saw on Facebook, we had a lot of generous donors that were willing to donate money directly to this gentleman who's doing the course, just to kind of offset the cost for a lot of the kids who might not be able to spend $300-400 on a certification course. It's our lifeguard recruiting is going very well, and we're looking to have at least a dozen more lifeguards certified for Long Pond. And we have all our pool lifeguards coming back, so we're in good shape, I think.
Nice job, Eric.
Good.
And I spoke with Supervisor Livesey back and Mr. Motlin back in October, November when we first started these meetings with Long Pond. And if you remember, they wanted us to pay them $50,000 a year just to go out there and open up shop. And we kind of flipped it on them, and now they're going to pay us to open up shop. So it was a win-win for everybody, I think.
I hope so. I hope it works out.
Yeah. So Any other questions? Sorry, I kind of just rambled them.
No, that's good.
Fine.
Yeah, no,
Great,
I-
Aaron, thanks.
Yeah, I'd just like to publicly say that Aaron, you know, he was sort of given the task last fall to be our lead for the town, and you've done a great job with that, so really appreciate
I
that.
appreciate that. Thank
Looks
you.
like-
I'm
looks
just
like
happy
we
it's
make
back.
good
I know the
progress.
community's going to be happy, and when we open on Memorial Day, it'll just be like it used to be. So.
You can't leave yet. Go ahead. finish
Oh
what
yeah.
you're
So
gonna say.
speaking of that, because things keep popping
I'm
in my
gonna
head.
bring up something.
Yeah, we're looking to what you said about staying open till dusk. So they upgraded Long Pond quite a bit as far as electricity and things like that. So what we're actually looking to do a couple times this summer is to utilize the beach at night and do some movie nights on the beach, or even some type of entertainment out there for adults. Anything we can do to utilize it and generate some revenue out there, we're gonna be looking into. So any ideas, anyone has any ideas at home, feel free to shoot me a message. Everybody has my cell phone number, so just call me.
Okay.
All right?
No, so I'm gonna apologize to Joey DeWitt in advance. We meet and have breakfast once in a while. I didn't have a chance to do that, so what I'm about to say is on me. So I also attended opening day of Little League. And when I was watching opening day, to bring a little history, the shack last year got wiped out and had its electric wiped out. Very thankfully, the Village of Highland Falls paid for that repair rather than the Little League taking it out of their funds. And through that, I found out we don't have a 15th electric account. It's their account. But league's money is being held by the comptroller in escrow, or however it's being held. So I was disappointed because I think his name was Bobby. Bobby Woodard, when he died, that family made a contribution to have that sign put in place. I think it was $6,000. Jimmy Ripa installed it for free. And I think that the controller for the scoreboard is now defective. So I know the Little League has some money in their funds. The village paid for the electric. It wouldn't bother me if the town helped them out a little bit to get a new controller. And I'll let you elaborate from there.
Sure. So in true fashion, we had everything tested and ready to go for Little League opening day up until Friday night. We went to turn the scoreboard on again Saturday morning. It worked except for the visitor button. When you hit the visitor button for the runs, it wasn't doing anything. So anyone who was watching the opening day, that's why the scoreboard wasn't on. We got some quotes from the company that actually makes it. They didn't install it, Mr. Ripa did, but they made the scoreboard. To fix the visitor button on the scoreboard, I'm gonna round, it's about $420 to fix the one button. To get an all new scoreboard console, it was in the $575 range, 600-ish. And to convert our scoreboard, what we have now, the problem with the scoreboard is it's a 25-foot wire. And if you know where the scoreboard is up there, it's only about 20 feet from where the people sit. So it's really tough to get someone to sit up on the rocks. What Little League was hoping to do is we can take the logic board out of the scoreboard, send it down to them in Jersey, and we could have it back in about 2 or 3 days. They can convert it to a wireless system. The wireless system gives us the ability to use the console up to 1,000 feet. I mean, you could use it on the other side of the lake if you wanted to. And what that does, again, it gives the opportunity for, a parent sitting in a car, a coach in a dugout, somebody who's not sitting right on top of the hill by the scoreboard to be able to use it and control the game. The scoreboard it creates a different atmosphere up there. Anytime you go to a youth sports game and they have a scoreboard up, it just, for some reason, it creates a different atmosphere.
What's the number on the wireless?
About 1,700. So that's where we were at. We were looking at spending about $600-700 on a new console, or going and spending a little bit more and making it a better system for the league. So that's kind of where we were at with that.
So because of the history of the donation, I don't think we should let it die. I think it'd be nice if we could help out the Little League. They have some money in their funds. Maybe we can work something out. The season is underway. There's only a month and a couple of days left. So we don't want to do this next year. Sorry to surprise the board, but I didn't have a chance to bring it up in email before that.
So that's the situation with the scoreboard.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
And again, I apologize.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you.
Do you have anything, Justin?
Nothing on the agenda.
Okay, did I get it? Kelly, do you have anything? Maybe you can tell us where we're gonna get $1,700 from in recreation. At this moment, no, but we will have you look.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, in order to sign a contract with whatever they call themselves, Cable Vision, Charter, Communications, all of those things, we have to have a public hearing before we sign the contract or sign the new contract. The old contract I signed in 1994, so it's kind of old. And what's been holding it up is each time they give us a proposed contract, they leave out this equipment that we're using. They leave that out. Channel 23 equipment in the basement, they just kind of, it's section 12, and they just leave it out. So I finally got them to the point where they are going to put something, I should say something, they're gonna put this section back in, but they're gonna word it different. They asked me to get a list of all the equipment that we have. At first, they wanted to know what all the equipment's worth and everything. I said, well, guys, you gave it to us, so I can't tell you what it's worth. It's all old. So I asked Councilman DeWitt to do an inventory of everything that we have from them. We'll send it on to them, and then we'll see what they come up with as far as how they're going to put it in the contract. So meanwhile, we can still do this public hearing, right, Justin?
We don't have to approve the contract, but we do need to have the public hearing.
So I'll need a motion to set a public hearing to be held on the 9th day of May.
23rd.
Oh, okay, this is an old sheet I got here, right? I just got this today.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so it'd be at a regular meeting on the 23rd day of May, the Town Board, Town of Highlands duly authorized setting of a public hearing to discuss the renewal of the cable franchise agreement with Spectrum Northeast LLC, an indirect subsidiary of Charter Communications.
Yep, that's it.
That's it. Oh, I see the next paragraph down has the May 23rd in it. So I'll ask for a motion to set the public hearing.
Motion.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember DeWitt?
Aye.
Councilmember Modlin?
Aye.
Supervisor Lipsy?
Aye. Okay, I received a letter from the Village of Highland Falls. Please be advised that with the adoption of the village budget, effective November 2022, water billing, the minimum or base rate, that's 0 to 5,000 gallons of water, will be increased to $95 for village residents. The rate for additional gallons of over 5,000 will remain unchanged at $4.63 per 1,000 gallons. The water rates will increase for the town as follows. The base rate minimum will increase to $142. That's 150% of the $95. The rate for additional gallons over 5,000 will remain unchanged at $6.94 per 1,000 gallons. This change becomes effective with the November 2022 billing. Now, to explain a little bit further, our water district is a not-for-profit part of the town. It's a district. We're not supposed to make a profit there. However, we're also not supposed to take a loss. And in the last few, how many audits we've been written up on this?
Well, the state audit,
The state audit
and then probably the last 4 regular audits.
right. We've been written up that we're not collecting enough money to pay for the district. So what I asked Kelly to do is to put some numbers together and come up with a suggestion on how to raise the water rates in the 2 districts. What we're proposing is, how do you say it? It's not cut in stone. It's what it will be for November. However, if we find that we're collecting too much money, that would be great, and we can drop it down a little bit. So right now, Kelly is proposing, Kelly, I'm reading this, and you're probably reading it over. You got it over there?
I have the resolution. I don't have my email.
Okay, well, here's your email.
I'm going to open it.
Okay, why don't you read it to us so I don't fumble with the numbers?
Sure, and I'll just say why she's looking, right? This is all subject to your town water code, right? Chapter 203 of the town code permits the town board to make adjustments to water rates by resolution, and that's what you're proposing here today. And again, for the precise purpose that these districts are supposed to be self-sufficient, and we've been notified that there's been deficits in those districts.
You want me to read my email?
Well, either read it or explain it so that the folks out, why don't you come up to this microphone too, please, Kelly? So that the people in the district know what we're doing, and we're not just raising rates because we have to.
Right. So we get billed every 6 months from the village, and we compare the master meter reading with the amount of water we're billing our customers. And there's always some unaccounted for gallons for, hydrant flushing, if there's a fire, that type of thing. So what we haven't done in a very long time is factor that into our rates. So any unaccounted for gallons, no one's being charged for them. So what I did was I went back for 6 billing periods, got the average amount of unaccounted for gallons, talked to Pat to make sure that we were looking at a reasonable amount of gallons. And I calculated how much that would be for each thousand, for the points in the water, not the points. Let me read my email. I averaged the 6 months unaccounted for gallons, and the cost of the unaccounted for gallons is $16,656 based on the rates now. And then I went through and I calculated how much we would have to increase our rates to cover that $16,656, and it turns into a 13% increase in our water rates.
Right, and so that's what's provided for in this resolution. And again, over time, if you find that there needs to be another adjustment, up or down, depending on whether you're covering the costs of the district, you can make another adjustment.
We're also applying the 13% after the village tax increase, the village water rate increase.
Right, and when Justin mentions up or down, we're also trying to, we'll say, plug the leaks, find any leaks that's in the system. We're having some problems with the meters. We're having some problems with people that may have water and don't have a meter, and they're not letting us know. We're trying to find all these things, and all these things will help towards resolving the deficiency in our funds.
Right.
Okay, so I have a resolution authorizing water rates adjustment pursuant to Chapter 203 entitled Water of the Code of Town of Highlands. Therefore be resolved that the Town of Highlands authorizes the increase of the water rents to a rate of $161 for the first 5,000 gallons and $7.84 per 1,000 gallons or part thereof after the initial 5,000 gallons. The rate changes shall be effective with the November 2022 billing cycle in accordance with the town code sections. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Motion.
Do I have a
I'll second.
Any discussion?
One question. How are we going to know, I don't know who I'm looking at. How are we going to know that if we are in fact collecting more than we need to be collecting? What's going to be the trigger that's going to alert us to the fact that, okay, we need to drop this rate down?
we run the water bills every 6 months, there's a breakdown in total on how much we're charging for consumption. So just in round numbers, if the village water bill is $150,000 and we're only charging our customers $125,000, then we're in the hole.
Mhm.
If the next billing cycle, the village charges us $150,000 and we're billing $175,000, then we know it's too high.
Okay, so it's going to be based upon what the bill is that we are paying the village,
Exactly.
and then what we are collecting in terms of from the water district,
That's right.
and that's going to do it. Okay. And you'll be looking, or we, or you, or someone
Yeah.
will be looking at that every 6 months then?
Yep, every
Oh,
time
yeah.
I review all the
Okay.
water bills.
Okay, and so we could, so this is going to happen in November, 6 months from there, so maybe this time next year, in May of next year, we may be looking at making
Right.
some adjustments.
Right,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens in November. November is the higher bill period. The usage is higher than November bill,
Because of summer?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
And that's the fairest way to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got to get settled out, and if we're making a profit, we're not supposed to.
Right, right,
So-
right.
The
Okay.
other thing I'd point out, right, though, is just, and I agree, it should be monitored every 6 months or every year, certainly. But this, again, the state controller audit just pointed out that there has been a running deficit,
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
And so there should be an appropriate catch-up, not penalizing
That's right.
the users, but a catch-up so that the system can then run
That's right.
on a stable basis going forward.
Jim-
Once our fund balance is back in the positive side, that has to be taken into consideration as well. As Justin said.
okay.
And Jim, a couple of Thursdays ago, we had a meeting, which I like to have, Pat Patterson was there, building department, the engineer, about water and about a good many other things. Couple of things, since I've been doing this publicly, no matter where I've been, you hire someone, they make maps, you fire them, they take them with you, there's no data left in town hall, people retire, nobody knows anything. A discussion came up on something I'm gonna strongly recommend at the next meeting, is a site called Diamond Maps. So there's these dudes out in Indiana that have about 700 municipalities around the country, where I downloaded the map, I signed up for it for a free trial. So for either $20 a month for one person, or $40 a month for unlimited users, you can have a base map, and anybody allowed to is allowed to add to it, so that when I say that there's a valve down on 9W where the ambulance accident happened, I went there the other day and I found it. That was unknown to Pat or a good many other people, not because he's foolish, but because there's data all over the place. So I'm going to recommend that, and I'm also going to recommend, because there's just not enough personnel. Pat has meters that aren't installed because he's the guy that does it, and he doesn't get a chance to get to it. I'm going to recommend we turn that into, I'm not going to call it a capital project, but that we go to the outside to have somebody come and do it. And I would like to have, I'm not going to call it an audit, where all 436 customers are visited by somebody representing the town with a clipboard confirming just what's there and taking, we need to do that because it's all over the place. And that will happen in the next year.
Okay. So that's good, that's good for the next meeting then.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, good, thank you.
We need a roll call.
You need a-
Oh, yes, I've got a motion, a second, a roll call, please.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember DeWitt?
Aye.
Councilmember Modlin?
Aye.
Supervisor Livesey?
Aye. Thank you. Proposed Long Pond contract, we just went through that with Aaron. I thank Aaron for coming here tonight. Chief, the request for leave of absence, what do you,
Table that, sir, until we get clarification from civil service.
okay, all right, fine. We'll table that. And we just interviewed two police officers, proposed police officers. You know, it was almost like a father and son combo that we interviewed, right? I mean, that was really amazing. Both of these gentlemen are part-timers in Greenwood Lake, They've worked with each other out there. The father, Mark Restovito, he's got a lot of experience. Even went to Culinary Institute. I didn't bring that up. I was going to, but I thought, no, I don't want to bring that up. Anyway, I'll ask for a motion to hire Mark Restovito as a patrol officer for the town of Highlands, depending on the okay from the county and at the rate of pay listed in the payroll and for maximum probation.
Motion?
Motion.
Oh, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll ask for the same motion for Kyle Conklin, based on the okay from the county. Payroll, his pay will be as on the salary schedule. That's the word I should have got out before. And what's it called, maximum probation.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 You got him, chief.
Thank you, sir.
In the direct opposite of what we just did, I read this letter with sorrow. After working for the town of Highlands for over 16 years, I'm formally giving you my notice that I am retiring effective June the 7th, 2022. It has been a pleasure and honor working for the town of Highlands, and as I leave here, I feel confident that I have given more than 100% to ensure that all payroll, retirement, personnel files were maintained to the best of my ability. It has been very enjoyable and a rewarding experience, and I have gained many long-lasting friendships and memories that I will treasure in my lifetime. Elaine LaBarry, the payroll clerk for the town. I'll ask for a motion to accept the resignation.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And I have something to say about Elaine. Is that okay?
Absolutely, right
She
now.
would not come here because I wanted her to come here to be recognized. There's no way she's gonna do that, so I'm gonna do it for her. So Elaine grew up, she lived in Monroe. Her father was what we called the keeper of the dams. And he lived in a house that is no longer there, out of what used to be Camp Shea, which is right next to the Queensboro furnace, so you're deep into the woods. And they used to go to school by a Bosch's taxi. There was no school bus up there. So a Bosch's taxi would come pick them up. She went to the West Point Middle School and went to O'Neill High School, which I'm not sure if she took a taxi then too. I think she did. But anyway, she is very conscientious, and when I was on the planning board, I can remember being here when we had no minute taker, 11 o'clock at night working on the minutes, and her coming in to make sure the payroll was right. During COVID, she's one of the people that was here when nobody else was here, because she had to be, to make sure that payroll happened. Kelly was one of those people also. So I wish she would have come so we could recognize her. She's a very dear soul. And more than once, she would walk down that road at nighttime going home in the middle of military exercises to wake up to flares flying all over the place. So she had a rather interesting childhood, and I just want to congratulate her for doing a good job and retiring.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything?
Yeah, I was going to say that likewise, my experience with her has been extremely positive and always uplifting. We talk about our children who are now both in the military, and then come to find out one day I was over getting my car fixed, and I was talking to this lady, and then I was like, "Do I know you from somewhere?" She said her sister works here. Come to find out they're twin sisters.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, good luck and Godspeed to her in her next chapter.
And Elaine is one of these people that make my life easier as town supervisor. I didn't worry about what she did over there. She did her job. She did it well. If there was a complaint, it was brought to me, or brought to her, and it was taken care of. Elaine did a great job, and again, made my life a lot easier as town supervisor. Kelly, you got anything to say about Elaine? Somehow I thought you might.
So when I started here 12 years ago, Elaine had a lot more experience at municipal accounting than I did, so she trained me to do payroll. And she also made my life very easy. I never had to worry about payroll. And in those 16 years that she was here, she missed one payroll, and it was because of COVID.
Wow.
She had a lot of, no matter what happened in her personal life, she always made sure everyone got paid. And she did, as she said in her letter, she gave it her all. And if something was done, if there was a mistake, she took it so personally, and she made sure that she corrected it right away. And she took her job very seriously. And that's what you need in a payroll clerk, no matter what. She made sure everyone was taken care of and treated well. So I will miss her tremendously.
I know you will.
Yeah. Could I just make a comment real quick?
Sure.
I didn't have an opportunity to get to know her, obviously, as long as a lot of you did. But I was certainly very impressed with Elaine. And I'll tell you that payroll clerks, they're the kind of people that when things are going well, you don't really know too much about or hear too much about. But when things aren't going well, that is a real problem. And I have never known of any, in fact, that's the first time I knew that there was any kind of payroll miss that you were just mentioning during COVID and everything. So I think payroll clerks and folks like that, they're doing a good job when you don't really know and hear too much about what's happening. So congratulations to her.
Thank you.
Well, let me just, since everybody else sits on the same boat, I didn't know her that well because I just came aboard, but she's just a very sweet woman. Every time I walked in here, and it was always very pleasant. And thank you for the words. And let's give her a round of applause.
She made it well known that I'm the only person in the whole government organization that doesn't have direct deposit, so.
Okay, resolution to authorize an agreement with Green Spot JC LLC and electric vehicle charging station. We've pushed this contract around. Are we all satisfied with it? Good, because you talk about, it's scary to talk about a win-win situation, but that's what we got here, and it just seems like there's no way to lose on this. So, without reading the whole, the
You
town
said
board.
it. It's a resolution to authorize the agreement. Right? It's
Okay.
substantially in the form that you've all seen. There's tiny little clarifications that are still going back and forth, but this would authorize the supervisor to sign once those issues are resolved.
Okay, you're gonna give me the contract to sign?
Yep,
Because
yep.
I don't have it.
Yep, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so therefore be resolved that Supervisor B, and he hereby is authorized, directed to execute an agreement substantially in the form of Exhibit B, which we've all seen. I'll ask for a motion to allow me to sign,
Motion.
Second?
and roll call.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember DeWitt?
Aye.
Councilmember Moblin?
Aye.
Supervisor Livesey?
Aye. Okay, we've got a roof that's leaking. Actually, I've never seen drops coming down, but I can sure show you tiles that are all, ceiling tiles that are all messed up. So we've had all the work done as far as researching what needs to be done up there and how to spell it out on the request for prices. So was it RFP? So I'll ask for a motion to authorize advertising for bids in connection with the town hall roof repairs.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember Councilmember DeWitt.
Aye.
Councilmember Modlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Lipsy.
Aye.
The logistics of that project were discussed at that meeting we had on Thursday of a couple of weeks ago. So there'll be any asbestos which is around the window up there will be encapsulated. Nobody will have to leave the building. They don't need a lot of land for a staging area out there or anything like that. So there'll be minimum inconvenience and the public will never know what's happening.
So we're not going to lose that little thing up
Oh, I know we
there.
wanted to, but that would turn it into a whole different project because now you have asbestos
No,
abatement.
I
so-
understood. On the roof of my restaurant, they encapsulated my big skylight there too. That was a lot bigger than that thing there. But anyway, anybody have anything else? Just worth a mention, since I've got it here in front of me. We've been paying American Tower for as many years as I've been here, I guess, Kelly, right? An awful long time. We pay them $1,744.03. This is the Putnam Valley Tower that we talk about. Well, I asked the chief to look into this and to find out just what are we paying for and why are we paying? And you got 911, so why are we paying for the tower? But I think we'll end up still paying for it because it's our local transmissions that come off of that tower. So, but I'm looking into it anyway. And then finally, I have a letter from Orange and Rockland. If you remember, I had a resident from Mine Road ask if there could be a couple more streetlights put on Mine Road. I got very good cooperation out of Orange and Rockland. They sent me a representative. I took a ride up there with them. Where we wanted the streetlights, that's from the, what's his name's house on top of the hill?
Hank Kiersey?
Hank Kersey, on down to the trailer park. There's only 3 lights that can be put in there because they need a secondary pole for each streetlight. And in order to string up more than that, it'll run us $9,000 a light, which I'm not willing to spend. But this doesn't come free, but what it comes at the price that we're paying for streetlights right now, which is $119 for the 3 lights per year, per fixture, I shouldn't say 3 lights, $119.52 per year per fixture. They'll be putting them up shortly. And that's all I have.
Just on the lights, I haven't talked about it in a long time. I see there was an email today for a foil for anything to do with LED lighting. Up at Eagle Valley Cemetery, you may as well put a headstone that says LED lights on it. That's where that's at. So that hasn't, there's been no activity for a year. It cost us about $8,000 to defend a lawsuit against it, so that project is dead.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you very much, everyone.